Greetings and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Commander John Benda, the 76th Commanding Officer of USS Constitution, the oldest and finest commissioned warship afloat in the world. I gotta say that I promised really good weather, and it looks like I've delivered. I was a little worried about this for this morning. I'd like to welcome all of our distinguished guests and thank you for letting the command join in to celebrate with Americans of Greek heritage, with Greek citizens, and several other represented countries, the 200th anniversary of Greek independence. My mission and the mission of the 80 active duty sailors stationed here today is to preserve, protect, and promote the legacy of this ship. But not just that. We also represent all of the United States Navy, all of the armed forces, and we represent the country, as this ship was designated as America's Ship of State in 2009. The story of Constitution doesn't begin until 1797, after the Revolutionary War with the British, but argue that this ship absolutely was critical to this country's gaining of true independence. Constitution is best known for its 3 victories at sea during the War of 1812, the Revolutionary War Round 2, where the new United States military fought for free trade and sailors' rights and to be treated like the sovereign nation that we were. This ship we are on is sacred ground, where many men lost their lives to keep their independence. A battlefield like Concord and Lexington, Bunker Hill, Trenton, or Saratoga. After the War of 1812, the ship, known then as Old Ironsides because of its impenetrable hull, went on to serve in the 1820s in the Mediterranean Squadron, which I'm excited to hear more about from you and some of our guest speakers. I am wearing my ceremonial 1800s period uniform. This is the uniform that Captain Jacob Jones, 14th in command, was wearing in 1821 during patrols in the Aegean. This is the uniform that Captain Daniel Todd Patterson, 16th in command, was wearing when George Syrian was rescued, and in June 1827, when he welcomed General Kolokotronis to his cabin. I'm proud to be wearing it with you today. On behalf of the United States Navy, congratulations on the 200-year anniversary of Greek independence, and thank you for recognizing and cherishing this ship's and this country's contribution to that effort, and for choosing to hold this amazing event on board our decks. Huzzah! But before we get to today's outstanding panel, please rise and join me as we pay tribute to our nations with the singing of respective national anthems, sung by musician Panayota Olaloku. Constitution Color Guard, parade the colors.
Time. March. Ready. Halt. Left. Face. Παρακαλώ να τραγουδήσουμε όλοι μαζί τον εθνικό μας ύμνο. Σε γνωρίζω όψη του σπιτού την τρόπη. Σε γνωρίζω από την όψη που με βιάει τη γη. Απ' τα κόκαλα βγαλμένη των Ελλήνων τα ιερά και σαν πρώτα ανδριωμένη χαίρο και ελευθεριά και σαν πρώτα ανδριωμένη χαίρο ελευθεριά και πρώτα χαίρο ελευθεριά. Το μικρόφωνο είναι ok. Is the microphone feeding back? Yeah. If it's okay, if it's not, I can continue to use it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just feeding back. Is that okay? Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Constitution, attire, the colors.
Right, face, forward, march.
Sovereign Lord, the author and sustainer of human freedom and dignity, and the source of our liberty, we invoke your blessings upon all who have gathered this afternoon to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Annunciation of the Greek nation, whose struggle for freedom began in March of 1821. We reverently bow our heads in memory of those brave hierarchs and priests, the men and women and children whose blood was shed and lives sacrificed in the heroic struggle for independence. As we commemorate this historic event, we pray for all those throughout the world who struggle to gain their freedom, their basic human rights and dignity. We pray that the example of the heroes of 1821 be our inspiration and guiding light. Amen. Please be seated. USS Constitution Commander John Benda, members of the steering committee hosting this historic ceremony, my brothers and sisters in the household of God. On behalf of the Greek American citizens from throughout New England, I thank you for your generous invitation to celebrate today the historic milestone of March 25th, 1821, the national holiday of Greece. We gather this afternoon to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the beginning of the heroic revolution which led to the independence of the Greek nation. In the annals of American history, at no time is there recorded a more general and official expression of pure sentiment, devotion, and sympathy for the cause of any people than is found for the heroic uprising of the enslaved people of the Hellenic nation in 1821. Greece's struggle for independence motivated Americans throughout our nation to rally behind the Greek cause of democracy and self-determination. American Philhellenes believed that they had a civic duty to help Greece reclaim its birthright democracy. Samuel Gridley Howe, James Williams, George Jarvis, and many others left their homes to fight alongside their Greek comrades in arms and provided humanitarian support. Meanwhile, American citizens established Philhellenic societies throughout our country, raising money to aid the cause and lobbying their elected officials to recognize Greek independence. The Philhellenic sentiments in America for the Greek Revolution of 1821 did not merely embrace mass meetings, addresses, memorials, sermons from the pulpits, collection of funds and supplies, and care for poor orphans. A number of prominent sons of America in the prime of their lives aspired to be classed among the friends of the Greeks, for to be a Philhellene in those heroic days was considered a great honor and a noble ambition of many highly educated men in America and all over the world. Many joined the Greek army and navy and fought shoulder to shoulder with the brave sons of Hellas. All of them underwent extreme sufferings and privations. Some risked, others lost their lives, fighting heroically for freedom's sake in the land where freedom was born. The names of those valiant heroes have been engraved on the hearts of all the following generations of Greece. We gather to respectfully remember that the USS Constitution was in the Mediterranean Sea during the years of the Revolution, as well as in the Aegean Sea, where it escorted safely to port merchant vessels delivering humanitarian aid to the suffering Greek population. This aid was sent from throughout the United States from countless Philhellenes who supported the revolution. The role of the USS Constitution as part of the Mediterranean squadron was to keep the sea lanes open to merchant shipping. History informs us that Kolokotronis and Canaris were among many Greek dignitaries that boarded the USS Constitution during the Greek Revolution. Here, on this historic warship, on old Ironsides, we pay tribute to its sailors, past and present, in particular George Syrian, a young Greek boy who was saved from certain death by sailors who sailed on the USS Constitution. This young man later enlisted as the youngest sailor in the U.S. Navy, who went on to serve 50 years on this magnificent battleship. Thank you for coming, and God bless America and Sito Yalas.
Thank you, Your Eminence. I would like to bring up to the podium now our beloved Consul General of Greece here in Boston, Mr. Stratos Efthimiou.
Thank you, Mr. Yaltouridis, and for all your efforts, as well as Mr. Kafka's efforts, which are very praiseworthy. Your Eminence, Commander Menda, Consul Generals of Portugal, Haiti, and Israel. Dear President of the Museum, distinguished friends, it is a distinctive honor to be here on the 25th of March, on the Independence Day of Greece, to celebrate the historic Bicentennial of the Greek Revolution, a fight for freedom from Ottoman tyranny, a struggle for the ideals of human dignity, social justice, and equality. A fight that was first recognized by the state of Haiti, a country that gained its freedom from slavery also through a heroic revolution. Consul General of Haiti, Hans Charles, thank you for honoring us with your presence. The flame of the revolution gave birth to the modern Greek state and set into motion a new era for Europe and for the wider region, the era of nation states. The 200 years anniversary is an opportunity to reflect on the past, assess the present, and help shape the future. We often navigated through turbulent waters, but the journey of the Greek state during these 2 centuries is remarkable. Greece is a nation that fought for its right to be independent, always side by side with the United States, a state that has never shied away from the international struggles for freedom, including in both world wars. Greece has been a sturdy pillar of democracy in the Balkans and a state promoting peace and stability in the Mediterranean region. And we have strong allies. Consul General of Israel, Ambassador Rubin, thank you for being here. Greece is a reliable US ally and a dedicated member of the European Union for the past 40 years, actively promoting and contributing Europe's fundamental values and priorities. Portugal is now the President of the European Union. Consul General, thank you very much for being here. Commander Benda, thank you for hosting us aboard the USS Constitution, this beautiful frigate that is connected to Greece through the dramatic story of George Syrian, the boy from the island of Psara, the boy who escaped from a massacre and who became the youngest sailor of the USS Constitution. A frigate that was visited by legendary figures that played a crucial role in the Greek Revolution. Lord Byron, the romantic British poet who was the spirit of the Hellenic movement and sacrificed his life for Greece. General Kolokotronis, the military genius and great hero of the revolution. Admiral Canaris, the legendary admiral who during the revolution led a fleet of fire ships and destroyed the Turkish admiralship and took revenge of the destruction by the Turks of the massacre of Chios, a massacre that is depicted in the painting of French romantic painter Eugène Delacroix. I will read a poem for Canaris, who was a native of Psara like George Syrian, the ship's boy. The title of the poem is The Epitaph, and it is written by a Scottish poet, William Edmonston Aytoun. I'm Constantine Canaris, I who lie beneath this stone, twice into the air in thunder have the Turkish galleys blown. In my bed I died a Christian, hoping straight with Christ to be, yet one earthly wish is buried deep within the grave with me. That upon the open ocean, when a third armada came, they and I had died together, wheeled aloft in wings of flame. Yet is something that they've laid me, in a land without a stain. Keep it thus, my God and Savior, till I rise from earth again. Thank you.
Thank you, Consul Euthymio. I would also like to welcome all of you on board this historic ship, the USS Constitution. Thank you, Commander Benda, for hosting us on this ship. My name is George Galterides. I am the president of the Pontian Society, Panagia Soumila of Boston. And along with Attorney Demetrius Kafkas, we head the steering committee that organized this event, with the help, of course, with the Consul General, coordinated with the Pontian Society, Panagia Soumila of Boston, along with the Hellenic American National Council and its president, Mr. Bill Matarangas, who also assisted in this project. Right now, I would like to go to Greece to hear our beloved ambassador, Ambassador Jeffrey Piatt, who gave us a very touching message for the 200th anniversary, the Bicentennial of the Greek War of Independence. Right after Ambassador Piatt, we're going to hear from Congressman Gus Bilirakis of Florida, and then Congressman John Sarbanes of Maryland.
Kalimera. I'm Jeff Piatt, the U.S. Ambassador to Greece. On behalf of the U.S. Embassy, I want to thank the Hellenes and Philhellenes Steering Committee and the Pontian Society of Panagia Soumela of Boston for inviting me to join your commemoration of the 200th anniversary of Greek independence. Today, the United States joins Greek people around the world to celebrate the birth of the modern Greek state and the 200-year friendship between our countries. The Greek and American revolutions are uniquely intertwined, inspired by our deeply ingrained belief in the system of government the ancient Athenians called demokratia, because the power or the right to rule flows from the people. No one knows this better than the people of Boston, who famously threw 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor in 1773 to protest unfair taxation without representation. As the inheritors of ancient Athenian principles, early American Philhellenes felt a similar duty to help Greece reclaim its birthright of democracy. Boston was home to some of the most well-known American Philhellenes, including Samuel Gridley Howe, who served as a volunteer soldier and Surgeon General in the Greek Army, and Harvard University President Edward Everett, a founding member of the Greek Committee of Boston, which provided humanitarian aid to the Greek people and lobbied elected officials to recognize Greek independence. It's especially fitting that you are commemorating Greece's bicentennial aboard the USS Constitution, a symbol of the honor, courage, and commitment of America's sailors that was never defeated in battle. During the Greek Revolution, Old Ironsides joined America's squadron in the Mediterranean Sea under the command of Captain Jacob Jones. While keeping sea lanes open to merchant shipping, the naval squadron also facilitated quiet, informal diplomacy in the Mediterranean and protected private American vessels, delivering humanitarian relief and provisions from our Philhellenic committees to the Greek people. William Fleming, a Marine aboard the USS Constitution, wrote extensively about his experiences in a personal journal that is on display at the USS Constitution Museum. Through him, we know the USS Constitution received both Admiral Constantine Canaris and General Theodoros Kokoutronis in 1827. Of Admiral Canaris, Fleming wrote, "He's one of the bravest men that the Greeks possess," and he described the general as a very majestic-looking man and a great warrior. I recently had the opportunity to visit the new Philhellene Museum in Athens, which is scheduled to open in just a few weeks. Its exhibit on American Philhellenes included something which I found profoundly moving, a copy of a letter that Greek independence fighters in Trieste sent to Naval Officer David Farragut, the first Admiral of the U.S. Navy, asking for his support. This is one example, one of many examples, of Greeks and Americans reaching out to each other during difficult moments and seeking inspiration. A cornerstone of our relationship has been the support we have provided each other over the years. The extraordinary bond between our peoples has endured for 2 centuries. During that time, our countries have stood shoulder together through great challenges, even through our democracy's darkest hours. Today, the U.S.-Greece relationship is stronger than ever, and our countries are working closely to promote regional peace, stability, and prosperity. The Greek-American diaspora community, and especially grassroots organizations like yours, put our democratic principles into practice, advancing the U.S.-Greece relationship and playing a vital role in realizing our shared goals. Greece's bicentennial is an opportunity to build on the progress we've made in recent years, to strengthen our alliance. To honor this important milestone, these commemorative events, the U.S. mission in Greece has launched a year-long campaign, USA in Greece, celebrating 200 years of friendship, that seeks to honor the bonds between our democracies and chart an agenda for our shared future. My own exploration of Greece's bicentennial themes has taught me that Philhellenes not only love and respect Greece, but are committed to the values of freedom, equal opportunity, and equal justice before the law that generations of our citizens have pledged to uphold and defend. That's why I'm proud to count myself among the distinguished American ranks of Philhellenes who have long cherished the cry, Zito η Ελλάδα, Zito η America. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Good afternoon and happy Greek Independence Day to my fellow Greeks and Philhellenes. While I wish I could be there in person on the USS Constitution, it is truly an honor to share with you this historic moment, even if it is long distance. We all know the long-suffering history of Greece under the 400 years of Ottoman rule. In fact, over the weekend, I hosted a viewing, a wonderful movie that I hosted in Tarpon Springs, Florida, called Cliffs of Freedom, which poignantly depicts Eleftheria y Thanatos ethos. Coupled with the Sunday of Orthodoxy yesterday, Greek Orthodox Christians remain inspired by the courage and faithfulness of our ancestors who 200 years ago took up the challenge of Bishop Germanos of Patras to live free or die trying as he raised the flag of revolution in 1821. Like the American revolutionaries who fought for independence and established this great republic we call the land of the free and the home of the brave, Greek freedom fighters took a cue from our forefathers and earned their liberty with blood. Old Ironsides was always there to provide the vital aid that people of Greece needed during the revolution. We had a lot of Americans that went over there and fought, and of course the treasure helped as well. England and France also contributed. That's why it's so fitting, again, that we are here today. The freedom we enjoy currently is due to the sacrifices made by men and women in the past. I take great pride, as you know, in my Hellenic heritage, and of course my American heritage. We are very fortunate people. It's each time I perform my duties, my congressional duties, I'm doing so in the legacy of the ancient Greeks and our American forefathers. As Thomas Jefferson once said, to the ancient Greeks, we are all indebted for the light which led ourselves, American colonies, out of Gothic darkness. Celebrating Greek independence reaffirms the common democratic heritage Americans and Greeks share. And as Americans, we must continue to pursue this spirit of freedom and liberty that characterizes both of these great nations. Thank you. God bless you. Zitoi Elas, Zitoi Ameriki, Zitoi 25 Martiu, και ζήτω η Κύπρο μας. And here's to another 200 years.
Χαίρετε, this is Congressman John Sarbanes. I wanted to salute the steering committee of Hellenes and Philhellenes and the Pontian Society of Boston for your celebration and commemoration of the 200th anniversary of the Greek War of Independence. And I also want to thank you for recognizing the important role that the USS Constitution played in assisting with the provision of humanitarian relief to the Greek people during the Revolution of 1821. The United States and the American people are deeply proud of the bond and connection that we have with Greece and the Greek people. Zito Elas, Zito Ameriki, και Zito Eleftheria.
Dear Commander, one of the things that I'm not sure even we Greek Americans understand is the very close connection between Massachusetts and Greece and the Greek Revolution. And Samuel Gridley Howe was the leader in this effort, a historic figure, both for us at Massachusetts and for Greece. So this is a very special day, a very special ceremony, and like all Greek Americans, I'm very proud to be. One of the things that I'm not sure even we Greek Americans understand is the very close connection between Massachusetts and Greece and the Greek Revolution. And Samuel Gridley Howe was the leader in this effort, a historic figure, both for us at Massachusetts and for Greece. So this is a very special day, a very special ceremony, and like all Greek Americans, I'm very proud to be a Greek and to be in a position where I can be part of this and hail this close relationship between the Commonwealth and Greece. It's very special, and it's good to be here.
I'm so honored to be here today on behalf of Governor Charles Baker and Lieutenant Governor Piatt to present today a proclamation that today is Greek Independence Day for the citizens of Massachusetts. And being a proud Greek American as I am, my grandmother, who lived right up the road from right where we are right now, often told me, she said, thank my God for America, but she never forgot from where she came. And they instilled a great pride in us, and the culture that we have and the history and the religion that has lived today. On behalf of Governor Charles Baker and Lieutenant Governor Piatt to present today a proclamation that today is Greek Independence Day for the citizens of Massachusetts. And being a proud Greek American as I am, my grandmother, who lived right up the road from right where we are right now, often told me, she said, thank my God for America, but she never forgot from where she came. And they instilled a great pride in us, and the culture that we have and the history and the religion that has lived on, and to be able to celebrate today, I feel in many ways that America is the direct descendant of the freedoms and the democracy that was developed in our homeland thousands of years ago. We are benefiting from that today, and now we are celebrating Greece's independence after hundreds of years of Ottoman rule. It's a beautiful, great day. Thank God for America. God bless Greece.
As we sit on the deck of this glorious ship with the breeze and the flag, imagine being a 10-year-old boy sailing into Boston Harbor for the first time, seeing these shores of a new adopted homeland. George Syrian had already served at sea for over a year at this point. He first joined Constitution's crew in the rank of boy, carrying messages, the least experienced on board, but he had been promoted to the rank of ordinary seaman. When he came ashore here in Boston, he was starting a new life with no idea what that new life might hold for him. But fortunate for him, Lieutenant Randolph, an officer on USS Constitution, tucked him under his wing, traveled with him, supported his education, took him to New York City, where a professional artist painted a portrait of George Syrian, a 10-year-old with the fire in his eyes, the hope, wearing the blue jacket of a sailor and a neckerchief, and that look in his eye that had so much future ahead of him. He didn't know that he would serve 53 years in the United States Navy, one of the longest careers ever. He served 3 times on this ship itself. He served from the Mediterranean, that first voyage to the United States. He was aboard when she sailed around the world, 1844 to 1846. At that time, he was the gunner. He had learned gunnery from another Greek American, from George Marshall. He had been schooled by him in gunnery, ended up marrying his daughter, and then became gunner aboard Constitution. And again, at the end of his career, he served aboard during the Civil War, when Constitution was a training vessel for the Naval Academy. So his story is a story we are so proud to share at the USS Constitution Museum. Just across the dock, we generally welcome over 350,000 visitors a year and share that inspirational story. I invite all of you to come and join us on April 8th or thereafter, when we will be reopening our doors. But I think we are so fortunate to celebrate this moment and realize that George Sirian sailed into Boston Harbor on July 4th, 1828, as we talk about celebrating independence, to arrive at your new nation on the day of celebration and marking that the values that we all stand for, to fight for freedom, for independence, what this ship represents. So I welcome all of you, and I thank you for being here to share in George's story on the decks of Constitution.
Thank you, Ms. Rand. I would like to bring up now the member of the steering committee, Attorney Demetrius Kafkas.
Commander Bender, Your Grace, distinguished Consul Generals of Greece, Israel, Portugal, esteemed guests, Hellenes and Philhellenes. I was born and came to this country at the age of 3 years old, from the land of ancient Olympia, father of 5 children in this country. Down the street, my law practice. My grandfather, in the destruction of Asia Minor, fought to the present-day Ankara from my mother's side. From my mother's side, again, the family clan of Tsakonas from Messenia are referenced in the memoirs of Theodore Kolokotronis as the family clan fighting with the Kolokotronis clan for freedom and liberty. The Kolokotronis family, in a period of 50 years, lost 70 members for liberty. There is not a family that did not sacrifice and suffer. My grandmother's brother was an officer of the Hellenic army in the mountains of northern Epirus. When they were ordered, because of the foreign powers, to retreat, they remained and took off their insignia as Hellenic officers and fought for the autonomy of northern Epirus. Where am I getting at? We all have the seed in us, that seed that won't die, that seed that transverses time and space, and which fights for the unalienable rights and dignity of humanity to live, love, create, and be free, and have justice for all. I reference 2 historical facts from the War of Revolution for the independence of Greece. When the Parthenon was surrounded by Hellenic freedom fighters who were looking to overrun the Turkish garrison that was posted there, the Turks were seen taking down the temple pillars to obtain the lead that held the marbles together so that they could use them to make musket pellets and ammunition. Those Hellenes that were denied the right to speak their language, that were slaves, sent a message to the Turks. Stop destroying the Parthenon. Tell us how much lead you need to achieve your goal, and we will send it from our own ammunition. And this is what happened. The respect of their ancestors, the ancestors they did not know much about. Another fact, during the many uprisings for liberty, over 123 attempts were made. The Ottomans conducted a policy of cultural genocide by cutting the tongues of women and mothers so that they would not speak the Greek language to their children, and thus they would be more amenable as slaves. 2 months ago, I became aware of the journals of the USS Constitution, the role of the USS Constitution in the Mediterranean, and how it was sent there as subtle gunboat diplomacy and as a preservation of maritime lanes that were needed for humanitarian aid to reach the Greek population. 6 years I've been driving by Old Ironside, going to work. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect to find out from these journals that the commander-in-chief of the then Greek forces, Theodore Kolokotronis, as well as the admiral who remains in history as seeking and achieving vengeance for the massacre of the island of Chios by torching the Ottoman fleet, had embarked and boarded this historic vessel as guests of the U.S. government. History, Hellenic history, American history, all are merging as one. Two lungs of the same body, the same soul. We owe the USS Constitution and sailors our unconditional, unwavering thanks and tribute to the sailors that have gone by, past, and present, and the future. They had the human dignity to take on board a young Greek boy, survivor of the massacre of Piatt, just so you can appreciate the extent of this war, this revolution. The American Revolution and the French Revolution roughly had 30,000 to 40,000 loss of life on each one. Just the massacre of the Greek population of Chios was over 80,000 Greek, women, children, and elderly. This was all-out war. This is a war of liberty or death when you have your back to the wall and you have no more options. The U.S. and Greece will continue their common path in this part of the world. Africa meets the Middle East and Asia. And right at that border of Europe, at all costs, we must stand in order for the West to stand. We are all Hellenes, our Jewish brothers, our Arab brothers, our Asian brothers. We believe in values that are sacred to humanity. The U.S. people and the people of the world must draw the line in the sand. As Carl Sagan once said, if the Ionian Greeks had not been defeated, we would as humans been to the stars over 1,000 years earlier. In closing, I would like to pay my respects on April 3rd. It is the birthday of Theodore Kolokotronis. It is also the date where the Third National Assembly of Greece convened and the first governor of Greece was elected, Ioannis Kapodistrias, who is well known worldwide for his achievements, not only on behalf of Greece, but the Swiss canons, Candonia, as well as foreign minister of the then Russian Empire. I thank you for being here today. Be proud, and there is no pain, there is no gain without pain. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Kafkas. Thank you, Ben. It all started in 1071 AD at the Battle of Manzikert. That's when Byzantine Emperor Romanos lost that battle for all the wrong reasons. How and why it happened, it's a discussion for another day. The Fourth Crusade notwithstanding, a downward spiral commenced. And that spiral became vicious, especially in the 15th century. Culminated by the fall of Thessaloniki in 1430, the fall of Constantinople in 1453, and the fall of Trapezunda in 1461. That was the final blow. For the next 360 years, all of mainland Greece and most of the Aegean islands were under Ottoman occupation. But during those 360 years, there was the will to be free. there were 124 recorded rebellions by the Greek people to be free again. Only 20 years after the fall of Trapezunda, Korkodilos Kladas and the people of Mani rebelled. They liberated lands up the Ionian coast, all the way up to Himara and Epirus, only to be crushed. 8 years later, in 1489, Andreas Palaiologos from the Palaiologos dynasty of Constantinople mobilized people to revolt, only to be crushed. And so it went on. 1770, Catherine the Great of Russia sent the Olaf brothers to mobilize the people of Mani, where Korkodilos Kladas has started the first rebellion. Catastrophic results. But this 124th rebellion was different. It was meticulously organized and planned by a covert organization whose members were shrouded in secrecy. Something like the Sons of Liberty here in Boston. At the suggestion of Ioannis Kapodistrias, it was headed by Alexandros Ypsilantis, who hails from Trapezunda. A little side note here, the Pontian Society Panagia Soumela of Boston, we members also hail from that part of the Black Sea called Pontus. That's exactly where Alexandros Ypsilantis came from. So Alexander Ypsilantis started the first military campaign of the Greek Revolution of this 124th rebellion on February 22nd, 1821, up in Moldavia and Wallachia, what is today Romania. He mobilized the Greek people that lived up there. And 2 days later, on February 24th, 1821, he issued his proclamation, "Fight for faith and motherland." A few weeks later, on March 17, 1821, the people of Areopolis down in Mani rebelled. And then a week later, on March 25th, 1821, in Agia Lavra, Greece officially declared their Declaration of Independence. The Hellenic national anthem, which Panagiotis Lagou sang earlier today, consists of 158 stanzas. Ms. Halulagu sang the first two stanzas. The Hellenic national anthem, the Hymn to Liberty, it was written by Dionysios Solomos on the island of Zakynthos, west of the Peloponnese in the Ionian Sea. It is the national anthem of Greece and Cyprus today. This hymn to liberty basically tells of the trials and tribulations of a nation, of a people, trying to find their place again in the free world. It's got its highs and lows. For example, stanza number 5 tells us of the feeling that every Greek had in Greece and abroad in pre-Revolutionary War Greece. Δυστυχής παρηγορία, μόνη σου έμεινε να λες, περασμένα μεγαλεία και διηγώντας τα να κλαις. In the Hymn to Liberty, Dionysius Solomos addresses Greece herself. It's an ode to Greece. So in stanza number 5, he says, you are unfortunate, and to find consolation, you discuss long-lost glory, but you cannot hold back your tears. But there are also signs of inspiration, signs of hope, and signs of encouragement in the Hymn to Liberty. Stanza 78 underlines the unbroken racial continuity between the revolutionaries in Solomon's time and their ancient Greek ancestors, the warriors Leonidas, Diinekis, and the rest of the 300 Spartans. «Ο 300 σηκωθείτε και ξανάλθετε σε μας. Τα παιδιά σας θέλει δείτε πόσο μοιάζουνε με εσάς. All 300 rise and come back to us. so you can see your children and how they are no different from you. And there is another stanza in the Hymn to Liberty which also offers more inspiration. And that stanza explains why we are here today aboard this very ship in this country. Stanza 22. Καρδιακά χαροποιήθη και του Βάσιγκτον η γη και τα σίδερα ενθυμήθη που την έδαιναν κι αυτοί. Wholeheartedly joyful is also Washington's land, and the shackles that bound her she remembers firsthand. Dionysios Solomos in 1823 knew very well what was going on in this country on these Atlantic shores in those then 24 American states. The Greek War of Independence, as we have said, started in 1821. In April of 1822, there was a crime against humanity, a horrendous event in the island of Chios, the Chios massacre, as Attorney Kafkas explained earlier. When the news of that crime against humanity reached these shores, a great mobilization started here. Greek committees were formed, most of them spearheaded by Protestant clergy, and a lot of them coordinated by great men such as Daniel Webster, Thomas Winthrop, Edward Everett, John Quincy Adams. These Greek committees were up here in Boston, Providence, New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, all the way down to New Orleans. In addition to these Greek committees, great men, such as Dr. Samuel Gridley Howe, whose two descendants are here with us today. We're going to hear from them soon. George Jarvis, Jonathan Peckamilla, they risked their lives and they went to Greece to fight along the revolutionaries. Dr. Howe was the Surgeon General of the Hellenic Navy during the Revolution. George Jarvis, the Greeks baptized him Zervos. He gave the ultimate sacrifice. He's buried in Argos. He was buried there in 1828. Jonathan Peckamilla from Vermont. When he came back from Greece, he adopted a Greek orphan. That Greek orphan came back to Vermont. Then he went to law school. He opened up a law practice in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and later became the first Greek-American congressman to serve in the United States Congress, Lukas Miltiadis Miller. There was a great sentiment here in America. In upstate New York, on the shores of Lake Ontario in 1822, in order to honor the Greek Revolution, a territory was called Greece. And today, north of Rochester, New York, there is a town called Greece, New York. In Michigan, to honor the brother of Alexandros Ypsilantis, Dimitris Ypsilantis, they named a city after him, Ypsilanti, Michigan, in 1825. The Greek committees, they raised funds. They held fundraisers in schools, churches, theaters, and they raised tens of thousands of dollars at that time. I just want to add something regarding stanza 22 and what exactly Dionysios Solomos meant. And it's a short paragraph. Let me read it to you from the Boston Recorder and Telegraph, dated Friday, February 26, 1827. Old Jacob of 76 sends $1 to the Greek committee at New York, and it's the only money with the exception of 37.5 cents which he has been the owner of since the day that Lafayette, the great champion of liberty, passed through Newark on his way to the South. He has no pension for his 5 years and 2 months services in the War of Independence. He lives with a relative who is a poor day laborer near the Newark Mountains. He has got his dollar by trapping 24 quails. And, quote, if he had trapped 2 millions, the poor sufferers in the cause of liberty should be welcome to them all. That is exactly what Dionysios Solomos meant in stanza 22. Old Jacob of 76, who fought in George Washington's army, he was a veteran. He was not well off. However, he gave 1/3 of his wealth to the Greek committee. Those ships, those committees, they raised funds, and with those funds, they bought food, they bought clothing, and they bought better medical supplies. And then, as we heard from Ambassador Piatt, those medical supplies, all that humanitarian assistance, it was shipped to Greece on merchant vessels, private merchant vessels, and that's where the story of this ship comes in. This ship was part of the Mediterranean squadron in the 1820s, and the good time of that period it spent in the Aegean Sea. And it escorted those ships carrying the humanitarian assistance to the Greek ports so that aid can reach its rightful recipients. The Turks wouldn't even dare bother this ship because, as I call it, Commander Benda, 2,200 tons of diplomacy. So the story of this ship is a big reason we are here today to celebrate 200 years of Greek independence. As the ambassador had noted, Admiral Canaris and General Theodoros Kolokotronis were invited to board their ship. On May 11, 1827, Admiral Canaris boarded their ship, and William Fleming, a Marine private who kept a private journal, wrote in his journal, and that journal is located right across there at the USS Constitution Museum. Admiral Canaris, accompanied by some other Greek officers, visited our ship. He is a man of about 35 years of age, of small stature, but well-made, with dark penetrating eyes and a very mild, modest deportment. He's one of the bravest men that the Greeks possess, and his gallant exploits have endured his name dear to his countrymen. A few weeks later, on January 1st, 1827, General Theodoros Kolokotronis was invited to board their ship. Marine Private Fleming wrote of Kolokotronis, "While laying here, we were visited by the celebrated Greek General Kolokotroni. He is almost 50 years of age, of great stature, with large features and a determined look. He is altogether a very majestic-looking man and a great warrior. The Greek soldiers look upon him as their main support in their struggle for liberty. His very appearance animates them, and seldom he leads them into action without being victorious." So today, we are here to thank the American people for all the help they have given our ancestors in their struggle for freedom 200 years ago. We're here to thank the crew of the USS Constitution, their crew past and present, for their support. And of course, if it wasn't for a few more nations that helped us, namely the French, the British, and the Russians, at the famous battle in the Bay of Navarino in 1828, that battle sealed Greece's independence, and the first Hellenic Republic was a fact a little while later. Thank you very much. In late 1821, Admiral Canaris and 3 others wrote a letter to Haitian President Jean-Pierre Boyer. The good president of Haiti replied to that letter on March 15, 1822. I will read you just a few excerpts of his reply. President Jean-Pierre Boyer, letter sent to Greek expatriates living in France, Adamantios Korais, Christodoulos Klonaris, Konstantinos Polychroniadis, and Athanasios Bogoridis. Before I received your letter from Paris, dated last August 20th, the news about the revolution of your co-citizens against the despotism, which lasted for about 3 centuries, had already arrived here. With great enthusiasm, we learned that Hellas was finally forced to take up arms in order to gain her freedom, and the position that she once held among the nations of the world. Citizens, convey to your compatriots the warm wishes that the people of Haiti send on behalf of your liberation, on the behalf of your liberation. The descendants of ancient Hellenes look forward in the reawakening of their history to trophies worthy of Salamis. May they prove to be like their ancestors and guided by the commands of Miltiades, and be able in the fields of the new marathon to achieve the triumph of the holy affair that they have undertaken on behalf of their rights, religion, and motherland. May it be at last, through their wise decisions, that they will be commemorated by history as the heirs of the endurance and virtues of their ancestors. On the 15th day of January 1822, the 19th year of independence, Boye. Haiti got its independence in 1804, and less than 20 years later, the president of Haiti, Jean-Pierre Boye, recognized Greece's independence. Let me paraphrase Dionysio Solomos, stanza 22. Wholeheartedly joyful was Jean-Pierre Boye's land, and the shackles that bound her she remembered firsthand. I would like to introduce you now the Consul General of Haiti in Boston, Mr. Hans Charles.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I feel tiny, little one, face to everything that your country did to have his liberty. Haiti suffered a lot to have his liberty too, so we know what we are talking about. His Eminence, dear Consul General, dear other Consul Generals, Commander, Ambassador, special thanks to the Consul General of Greece in Boston for this invitation. Mia zesti Antalya to the Greek people. It's an honor for me to represent Haiti this afternoon for the great celebration of victory on the exploitation of man by man. While in the 80s, the Republic of Haiti was striving to have its independence recognized by its former executioner on 1822, President Jean-Pierre Boyer, by his letter to the great academic Adamantios Corresis, made Haiti the first country that recognized the independence of Greece from the Ottoman Empire, which was exploiting the country since about 300 years. Indeed, during this year 1821, President Boyer would have to pay exorbitant sums to the former colonizing country, France, so that it could recognize the independence of Haiti. Independence acquired on the battlefield, but not given. However, it did its best to help other countries to have their own liberties, even they don't have enough money to pay for their own liberty they have suffered for and they battled for. This magnanimous gesture of the state of Haiti at that time confirms the adage that says that the poorest are often the most generous people because they know what suffering is. People who are in needs understand better the pain of those who are struggling to get themselves out. Haiti has known misery and stigma, so it understands how other borderly countries feel when they are bowed under the weight of slavery and misery. This is why we join our force with Greece for its liberation. Even today, in this period of pandemic, where there are no borders to the spread of the COVID disease, solidarity between people is the best weapon to the common enemy. On behalf of the Republic of Haiti, I wish a happy Independence Day to the people of Greece around the world. Finally, I will add that my country, Haiti, continues to pay the heavy burden of this war of independence and its solidarity with the people we were living in situation of exploitation. Thus, I take this opportunity to solicit the solidarity of all of so that Haiti can take a new one-up and break out on this informal circle of chronic uncertainty. Long life to solidarity between peoples to overcome all the evils that border our world. And let us create a world of peace. Life is good for everyone. Happy Independence Day, dear Greek friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Consul Charles. Now I would like to call up the Consul General of Portugal in Boston. And of course, Portugal is the President of the European Union now. Mr. João Pedro de Vasconcelos Fins do Lago.
Mr. Consul General of Greece, dear friends, Stratos, Commander, Eminency, Excellencies, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here today. And on behalf of the European Union, I wish all Greeks a joyful celebration of the 200th anniversary of their independence. Dear friends, Greece is at the very matrix of Western civilization. The fact that it survived and reconquered its independence made the whole world stronger. Greece had not recovered independence 200 years ago. Our world would be a world with very different values, no doubt. We cherish Greece for the heritage we have received, cultural and political, that is indeed the fingerprint of the Western civilization and beyond. We thank Greece for democracy. We thank Greece for the separation of powers, for the independence of the judiciary, for all the classic values of democracy and the modern values of democracy. Inclusion, freedom always at the helm, diversity, free, fair, and independence of media. All these are values that are the sons and grandsons of the matrix Greece donated to the world. So on this very special day, it's the entire world that thanks Greece and rejoices with Greece. Very happy and long life to Greece, to the Greek diaspora. Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you, Consul. Now I would like to call up the Consul General of Israel in Boston, Ambassador Meron Rubin.
Thank you very much. Consul General, Your Eminence, Commander, my fellow diplomats, ladies and gentlemen, it really is a pleasure to be here today with you. I'm not going to go into the millennia of history that we have with the Greek people, but I would like to say that maybe without our ups and downs in the history, we wouldn't have had Hanukkah. So I presume that we definitely have to thank the Greeks for that holiday. Ladies and gentlemen, it really is an honor to be here on board this historic ship. As mentioned, our history goes back for thousands of years. Greek influence over the Holy Land was a very important one in history. And we learned a lot. And as my eminent predecessor here on the podium said, without Greece there would be no democracy and no importance of, as you said, the basis of Western society. And I think we have a lot to thank the Greek people for that. I would really once again like to wish Greece a very happy bicentennial. The last few decades, I think, have brought about a closeness that has not existed before between our two countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. I think we have a lot to look forward to, and I hope that the following few millennium will be wonderful for both of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, I would like to call author Mr. Vasilios Kyranis.
I don't know what to say now because everybody Your Eminence, distinguished Consular of Greece and the rest of the country, I want to thank you very much, all of you. Captain Brenda, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the Hellenic and Philhellene Steering Committee, Attorney Kafkas and Mr. Yaltouridis, the great orator, my fellow Americans and Hellenes, my name is Vasilios Kyranis. My birthplace is the northern part of the divided Epirus that is currently under the Albanian control. I was born and raised until I escaped the brutal communist regime of Albania at the age of 18. The country was well known all over the world for its numerous jails, forced labor camps, electric barbed wires along the Greek-Albanian borders, the only atheist and self-isolated country in the universe. It was also the poorest country in both Eastern and Western Europe, but the richest in propaganda in the world. I fled to Yugoslavia in 1961, and after my own odyssey from Skopje, spent 4 months in jail because they were afraid that I was a spy, and Bosnia, a refugee political camp. Thanks to the United Nations, I was sent to Belgium. From there, I emigrated to Canada, and eventually I arrived in this great democracy which called the United States of America on September 17, 1967. where I raised my family and proudly became a United States citizen. My compatriots from southern Epirus were the two of the founding members of the secret organization of the Filiki Eteria, Nikolaos Koufas and Athanasios Tsakalov. There would be no successful revolution without the Filiki Eteria. Since the fall of Constantinople in 1453, there were many revolutions that were bloody and unsuccessful. The well-organized revolution of 1821 by the Filiki Eteria was pan-Hellenic, from Pontus and Asia Minor to Thrace, Macedonia, Epirus, all the Ionian Islands and Aegean Islands to Cyprus. I'm proud and honored to be on this historic Navy warship, the USS Constitution, Captain Breda. The flagship of the United States of America holds a special place in my heart because in its chambers it once hosted two of the leading military leaders of the Greek Revolution, Theodoros Kolokotronis and Konstantinos Kanaris. The two of them were worthy prodigy of their ancestors. Kolokotronis, worthy of Miltiades, of Marathon, 490 BC, Leonidas of Thermopylae, 480 BC, and of Aristides in Athens and Plataea, 480 BC also. Canaris, who was worthy of Themistocles, destroyed the Turkish fleet on June 6, 1822. As it is known, after the Battle of Thermopylae, the Hellenes, although surrounded in Salamina, destroyed the Persian fleet under the Themistocles' command. When the Spartan Eurybiades gave the signal to attack the Persians by singing the paean victory praise, «Ω παιδες Ελλήνων είτε, ελευθερούτε πατρίδε, ελευθερούτε δε παιδας, γυναίκας, θεών τε πατρών έδι, θήκαστε προγόνων νυν υπέρ πάντων αγών», which means, sons of the Greek, advance to liberate your fatherland, your children, your wives, the temples of your gods, the tombs of your ancestors. Now comes the final battle. Even the Greek revolutionaries, fought bravely. They liberated only Peloponnesos, a part of central Greece, and a few islands. Unfortunately, too many Greek provinces were left out of the Greek borders, including my birthplace, Epirus. The two people, the American and Hellenic, are both intertwined. The American revolutionaries were inspired by the Greek spirit and based their revolution on the ideals of ancient Greece, on the classic principles of democracy, liberty, equality, and justice. From these ideals, they feed their spirit to advance and form this American revolution that succeed. The enslaved Hellenes sought courage and fortitude to again revolt from our 400 years of Turkish slavery. Therefore, the revolutionaries made the decision at all cost and with great sacrifice to liberate their motherland with the desire for freedom or death. Ελευθερία ή θάνατος. I want to thank you very much. I wish you the best. Et merci beaucoup, Haiti. The first country that recognized Greece from the beginning without hesitation.
Okay, we're going to go to a short video message now from the mayor of Athens, Greece, Mr. Kostas Bakoyannis.
Greetings from Athens. Γεια σας από την Αθήνα. It's a great pleasure to join you as you mark the Bicentennial of the Greek War of Independence. I am particularly excited because I have vivid, fond memories of my time in New England. And of course, I very much remember when I was honored to join the Greek National Parade. I remember the passion, the emotion that swept the streets of Boston. From the birthplace of democracy to the world's greatest democracy, we have managed to build a bridge, a solid bridge, because we share the same values: liberty, freedom, democracy. These same values that inspired the Philhellenes from New England to come to the Greek shores. Some of them shed their blood. Some of them even sacrificed their very lives. Not for Greece just as a country, not for Greece just as a state, not for Greece just as a nation, but because of this overreaching, overriding belief in something that's greater than ourselves. A belief that is symbolized in Greece on the 25th of March of 2021. Χρόνια πολλά, ζήτω η Ελλάς. Overriding belief in something that's greater than ourselves. A belief that is symbolized in Greece on the 25th of March of 2021. Χρόνια πολλά, ζήτω η Ελλάς.
A little higher. The next guy, the next speaker is quite tall. I would like to call up our beloved sheriff of Middlesex County, Mr. Peter Katugian.
Γεια σας. It is great to be with you here today. What a beautiful day. And I have to be honest with you, it's the first time I've worn a full suit in a year, so a special day for all of you, really. I'd like to say George Gielterides and our dignitaries, His Eminence Metropolitan Methodios, Commander Benda, President Rand, and our consuls general for their wonderful speeches. And what a great day that Mike Dukakis could come and visit at least by video. One of the great Greeks. You know, you go back centuries of great Greeks in this world, and Mike Dukakis is still one of them, present day. Not just a three-time governor, not just a presidential candidate, but a man that still walks the walk and talks the talk and believes in doing good for so many people. Truly the embodiment of everything that makes the Greek people great. I want to say a thank you to a friend of mine, Nick Papadopoulos, that couldn't be here, but it's through his invitation with George that I am here. He's taking care of a loved one right now. I'd like to say that Greeks and Armenians are, as much with the Jewish population, apparently through millennia, are bonded by culture and by experience. And I'm proud to be here, to be Greek with you today. Both experienced genocide at the hands of the Ottoman Empire, which was truly more of a Christian genocide than an Armenian genocide, right? We sometimes forget that there were 150,000 Pontian Greeks and 10,000 Assyrians that also lost their lives during this genocide because they were Christians. Both achieved independence, Greek a little before Armenia. Both have rich cultures of art and food and literature and Christianity. I had the great blessing of visiting Greece twice to speak about the genocide, the Christian genocide. To sit and speak in Athens and Thessaloniki, which was a larger Greek Pontian population, and Lavrios, and I will admit I snuck over with my wife to Santorini at one point too. It was a magical experience, and I am so hoping to get back there. I want to also tell you a story that all too often our cultures are tied in, one in a very happy day and one in a mournful day, because your Independence Day ties in with our genocide, our Martyrs' Day. And if you recall, a number of you would have been at the State House, where these two events sometimes happen at almost the same day, and on occasion they happen on the very same day. And I remember Greek Independence Day was going on, and Armenian genocide commemoration was going on after that, and I had a number of my non-Armenian, non-Greek staff that were there, and I said, when you walk through the building, there'll be Greeks and Armenians everywhere. You won't be able to tell the difference. And I asked them later, could you tell the difference? And one of my non-Greek, non-Armenian staffers said, oh, I can tell the difference. And I said, how was that? She said, the Greeks were way better looking. That hurt a little bit. I also have to say that you also have Giannis, which is a great Greek, right? Defeated the Celtics last night, but Brad Stevens has extended the deadline and is sending a crew to Yerevan, Armenia. There's a mythological 7-foot Armenian that's going to come to the Celtics and be our freak. Both of our people bravely sought independence from the Ottoman Empire's yoke. What carried our people forward was the hope of self-determination, the light of freedom, and this ship represents so much of that. Not just for the Greeks, because there's another Armenian connection with this. Moses Gulisian came to this country penniless. Ms. Rand, you would know this story. Penniless. Created a copper factory. Made some wealth for himself. Being a true patriot, appreciative, much like your community is of this great country and the refuge, but not just the refuge, but the opportunity it gave, knew that the U.S. government was about to scrap the USS Constitution. On December 11th, 1905, December 11, 1905, Moses Gulisian wrote to the U.S. government 12 words. I'll give you $10,000 for the Constitution, Old Ironsides. Will you sell? The simple act of another immigrant that appreciated what this country offered rallied the public so much so that they preserved the USS Constitution today. Another connection for our communities. We are tied in so many ways, and it is an honor to be with you here today on such a beautiful day. Americans provided some of that light, the light of freedom that I spoke about. Those who served on Old Ironsides 200 years ago, you've heard, who kept the shipping lanes open for humanitarian aid, who gave not just refuge, but a home and a life to George Syrian, a child. Their actions made real the promise of freedom in a way that no one could have known the impact of those simple actions by decent people that very day. These were not just Greek Americans, nor Philhellenes. They were people of all backgrounds. They were Americans. This is a lesson as important today as it was then. So I say thank you so much to the Pontian Society of Boston for reminding us, and I think it was as the Consul General for Portugal said, we cherish Greece, we cherish the Greeks. I'm proud to present a citation from the Middlesex Sheriff's Office to all whom these presents may come greetings. May it hereafter be proclaimed throughout the county and the Commonwealth that the Honorable, the High Sheriff of Middlesex, on behalf of a grateful citizenry, does this day pay homage to the Pontian Society, Panagia Sumela of Boston, in 200 years of Greek independence. The Greek people returned democracy to its birthplace and further enriched a vibrant and beautiful country. This monumental anniversary was inspired and assisted by brave Americans such as the crew of the USS Constitution. May the shared story of Greek and American independence continue to light the lamp of freedom around the world for generations to come. Given this 25th day of March 2021, by myself, Peter Katujian, Sheriff of Middlesex County, Evaristo Parapoli. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Katujian. Now, do you guys understand why we love our sheriff so much? Earlier today, we were at Mount Auburn Cemetery, and we've been there many times to honor that great Philhellene, Dr. Samuel Gridley Howe. Dr. Howe, like we said earlier, was the Surgeon General of the Hellenic Navy during Greece's War of Independence. 4 times she went to Greece. The 4th time was to help the Cretan insurgents get their independence from the Ottomans. With us today, we are honored to have 2 descendants of Dr. Howe, Miss Gillian Kellogg and her daughter, Miss Leah Wainwright. So I would like to bring up to the podium Miss Gillian Kellogg.
Gotta wear my mask so you can see how good it looks. Take it off, but I'm very proud of the American Greek symbol, and I want to thank you all, dear friends, for having me here as a descendant of Samuel Gridley Howe and of honoring his contribution to the independence of Greece. I have a brief quote that I'd like to share with you because I think it exemplifies his passion for your country and his passion for the independence. In 1828, he was taking the six weeks journey back to Greece on the ship Suffolk. He may have been escorted by the Constitution, we don't actually know, but as you know, the Constitution was protecting the waters. He kept a journal and made many entries. One of the entries, he says, on November 5th, when he last landed in Greece with these relief supplies, he exclaimed, "This morning at daylight, we discovered land. Greece, Greece. Welcome again to my eyes. Welcome, land of science and song. Welcome, ancient seat of liberty and light. Welcome, cradle of newborn freedom. I thought, no land, even my own, could look more sweetly." Clearly, Dr. Howe was inspired by the history, the culture, and the people of Greece. As you have heard this morning and now, he devoted his next few years helping restore the society by building the harbor at Aegina. There's a beautiful monument there now, building schools, hospitals, orphanages, and establishing the farming community at Washingtonia. So I am very proud and thank you very much for the honor of having me here and honoring him. Now, do I have the honor? Now I have another honor to introduce my dear friend Konstantinos Valensas. He's in Athens, and he has worked for the last 10 years collecting artifacts and bringing together the history, preparing for this day, the 200th anniversary of the independence of Greece. and he's going to speak to us now. When we all go to visit, we will be able to visit the museum that is opening at this very time.
Dear Commander, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I send you my warmest greetings from Athens, Greece, on the occasion of the Bicentennial from the Greek Revolution of 1821. We also celebrate 200 years of friendship between the United States of America and Greece, and the Constitution on which you are all now is a monument testifying this long friendship. The Greek Revolution was historically in constant dialogue with the American one. Our Society for Hellenism and Philhellenism and the new Philhellenism Museum in Athens paid tribute to the American Philhellenes who supported the Greek Revolution with an exhibition showing paintings, art, and documents. Lafayette himself was a key figure of both revolutions and a great Philhellene. The Philhellenic Committee of Boston was one of the most emblematic centers supporting the Greek cause. It was chaired by Thomas Winthrop, the ancestor of Secretary John Kerry. The Greek cause was supported by distinguished personalities like Edward Everett, Daniel Webster, and of course, Dr. Samuel Howe, a great man and a benefactor of Greece. After the Greek Revolution, many Greeks integrated in the American society and contributed to its prosperity. I will refer to the example of two orphans who survived the atrocities of the war during the Greek Revolution. The first one is George Colvo Corresis. He excelled as a captain of the Saratoga warship, and he was praised for his bravery and successful operations he commanded in 1864 during the Civil War. He was a rescued orphan from the island of Chios. The second one is Miltiadis Miller, the adopted son of Jonathan Peckham Miller, another great volunteer fighter in Greece. Miltiadis was the first Greek-American congressman in the United States of America. Today, we celebrate the regeneration of Greece and 200 years of friendship between our nations, looking forward with optimism to 2,000 more. I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Gillian. All right, finally, in 1824, 2 years after the crime against humanity in Chios, another crime against humanity was committed just west of Chios on the island of Psara. Again, the Ottomans came to take revenge on the innocent population, revenge for the casualties they suffered from the revolutionaries. And they entered the island and they started slaughtering. A mother took her 6-year-old son, put him in a small boat, and pushed him out to sea. That boy, Yorgos Sarianis, when he was a few yards out to sea, he literally saw his mother get butchered at the shore. That was 1824. We read in the logbooks of this great ship that in 1827, there was a 9-year-old boy on the ship by the name of George Syrian. Now, Professor Manolis Paraschos will give us some more insight on that young man who was the first one to be enlisted, the youngest man to be enlisted in the United States Navy. And as a big surprise for today. That man's great-great-granddaughter will give us a presentation to conclude this event. Professor Barascos.
Your Eminence, Consul Generals, Commander Benda, it is very moving for me to be here today, and as a person who was born in Greece and grew up in Greece, I now find myself here doing research about the Greeks of America, and especially the Greeks of Boston, and I happen to find the orphans that we're celebrating this year, and one of them being George Syrian, who happened to serve on this ship. Another person, another orphan, was a little Garifalya, Michalbey, who was also from Sarah. Her mother, her family was killed the same time. Syrian's family was killed the same way, and the father pushed her daughter, who was 9-10 years old, in a rowboat, and she reached one of the Allied ships, and she was taken to Smyrna, etc., etc. It's a story now beginning to be well documented, and is very similar to George Syrian's. But it is important to focus on Syrian because he has a direct connection to this ship. I'm asking you to imagine, if you can, a 9-year-old boy having just lost his family, and now he's surrounded by all these foreigners in a foreign ship, and nevertheless they made him feel at home. They embraced him, they educated him, they made him a sailor. He started from menial jobs, and then he became head of gunnery, and he wrote the first gunnery manual of the American Navy. This boy was pushed in the sea by his mother in 1824. And he went to Norfolk, Virginia, he started a family, and today we have at least 200 descendants of Mr. George Syrian, Sarianis. And I have kept up with him, his descendants, and the little girl Garifalya, who unfortunately did not grow enough to get married and have kids because she died from tuberculosis 3 years later after she got here. But she has a fabulous story of generosity and wisdom for her age, and is also buried at Mount Auburn Cemetery. And the citizens of Sarah who are listening to this celebration today are celebrating those two children that have made history in the United States. I'm happy to have kept up with one of the descendants. Jean McDougall is the historian of the Syrian family in America. She has a PhD in history from the University of Southern California, and she's executive director of, co-founder of the Ramblin' Conrad Folklife Museum Institute in Norfolk, Virginia. Her husband, Bob, is also a Smithsonian Folk Legacy recording artist and a member of he served in the American Coast Guard, and he was a writer on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, which was a program that was dear to my heart, yes. So this is the couple, and that is going to entertain you for the next few minutes. Jean has written this poem. She and her husband put it to music, and I promise that you will leave here singing that tune as you go home. So Jean and Bob, please go on and keep, as you're listening to this, keep thinking of that little boy and how he must have felt in 1824-25. Okay, let's go to Gene.
Welcome to our home in Norfolk, Virginia. I'd like to thank Professor Parajos, Captain Benda, our longtime friend Anne Grimes Rand, Gillian Kellogg representing the Howe family, and the people who have brought us this event, the Hellenes and Philhellenes Steering Committee, and the Pontian Society, Panagia Sumila of Boston, and its president, George Yaltaridis. Now, there are a lot of people gathered here today to honor the relationship between our two nations and to celebrate our common heritage. You know, I'm just one of nearly 200 descendants of a 10-year-old boy who landed in Boston on July 4th, 1828, to begin a new life not only for our family, but with another new family, the United States Navy. And that was a family that gave him a home to replace the one he'd lost on Sarah in 1824, but it also gave him opportunity. When you look at the written record of who was able to come aboard a ship like Constitution, you'll know how amazingly lucky George was to have escaped war, starvation, smallpox, all at a point when Athens seemed to be on the brink of final destruction, and then to make a new start in America. It's a story that anyone in this nation of natives and immigrants can find a way to relate to. Now, as an artist and a writer, I was interested in telling George Syrian's story through the literary and performing arts. You're going to hear a poem set to music that recalls a moment that moves me deeply. It starts at Gibraltar. For most of the month of May, 1828, USS Constitution was becalmed at Gibraltar. Now it takes a certain kind of wind to get around that big rock, and the crew members could not have been more anxious to clear it. Many of them had signed on believing that this would be a 2-year cruise, not a 4-year marathon. And Captain Patterson himself was eager for the frigate to pull into Boston Harbor in time to celebrate the 4th of July. The Journal of Marine Private William Fleming reports that on May 31st, at 10 o'clock at night, the wind, to our great joy, shifted. All hands were roused to raise the anchor and head for home. I like to imagine George in those hours and days that followed, gazing out into the great blue beyond, taking the chance of his young life, heading toward a new hope and new dreams in an unknown land beyond the sea. So I wrote this poem and added a tune many years ago now, and recorded it with 2 more descendants of George Syrian, my daughters Margaret and Alexandra. I hope you will hear something familiar in this story, something that reminds you of your own.
On a blanket of blue, his heart's desire in view, and as he breathes in the briny air, he cannot be afraid. He moves like a creature reborn, his childhood scattered and torn. The craggy islands and wild thyme hills give way as life is remade, and all these days, emerging from the haze, are filled with promise, the stuff of dreams that cannot help but be. A dream is a powerful thing, it makes the lonely heart sing. His spirits sail on a westward gale to a land beyond the sea. that wakens each day, the stars that light out his way. The whole of nature is calling him relentlessly as the tide. And all these dreams, his mind, his body screams, are drawing him to an unborn day that cannot help but dawn. A dream makes a pauper a king, inspiring every great thing, to give him courage to seize the day, embrace the lot he has drawn. And all these days, emerging from the haze, are filled with promise, the stuff of dreams that cannot help but be. A dream is a powerful thing, it makes his lonely heart sing. His spirits sail on a westward gale to a land beyond the sea. His spirits sail on a westward gale to a land beyond the sea.
Thank you, Professor Barascos. Thank you, Dr. G. McDougall. Thank you, Bob Zentz. Again, we would like to thank you for joining us here today on this great ship. We honored just now the second longest serving sailor in the United States Navy, our own Yorgos Sariyani George Syrian. We have some Greek delicacies prepared for you to enjoy. And the Pontian Society Panagias Rumela would also like to give you a parting gift, the new book by called The Greek Revolution by Mr. Kitromilidis and Tsoukalas. Official publication day today, March 25th, 2021, published by the Harvard University Press. Again, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Commander Benda. Thank you, American people. Long live the United States of America. Zito η Αμερική. Long live Greece and Cyprus. Zito Elas, Zito η Kύπρος.